Everybody vibes with the all-new Camry. A standard 225 horsepower engine and an available sport-tuned suspension provide the power and agility to take you anywhere. And to do it in style. With available features like the two-tone midnight black metallic roof, color-matched sport grille, panoramic glass roof, and cockpit red leather-trimmed interior, the Camry has never looked better. And because every all-new Camry is a hybrid, it delivers up to an EPA-estimated 51 miles per gallon combined. Whatever your vibe, it's a Camry vibe. Learn more at toyota.com/Camry. Hello, from Wonder Media Network, I'm Jenny Kaplan, and this is Womanica. This month we're talking about adversaries, women who fought for their place in history. Whether they fought to get to the top of their sport, against how society perceived them, or fought with each other to be champions. We're talking about women who broke barriers and sometimes did seemingly impossible or unspeakable things to carve out their place in history. This episode of Womanica is brought to you by the all-new Toyota Camry. One night in 1979, a renowned literary critic sat across from talk show host Dick Cavett. Cameras were rolling. Cavett attempted to cue her to highlight an unrecognized writer, but she didn't take the bait. Instead, she launched into a scathing critique of a more famous playwright, branding her a dishonest writer. The next day, the critic was met with a lawsuit that captured public attention and fueled what would become one of the greatest literary feuds of the 20th century. We're talking about the battle between Mary McCarthy and Lillian Hellman. Before these two women were known as rivals, they were known for their careers. Mary McCarthy, the literary critic, was born on June 21, 1912 in Seattle. Her parents died when she was a child, and she, along with her siblings, was sent to Minneapolis to live with an aunt. Mary referred to those years as circumstances of almost Dickensian cruelty and squalor. Luckily for Mary, her maternal grandfather brought her back to Seattle and enrolled her at a convent school for girls. Her strict Catholic upbringing did not stop Mary from becoming a wayward modern girl after she graduated college. In her later works, she documented many of her love affairs and marriages in detail. During the 1930s, Mary grew fascinated with politics. She closely watched the Moscow Trials, a series of show trials held by the Soviet Union directed against Trotskyists and other critics of the Communist Party. These trials were widely seen as means for Stalin to eliminate his political rivals. Mary, who considered herself a Trotskyist, was highly critical of anyone who aligned themselves with communism. Mary began her writing career as a theater reviewer before moving to fiction. However, her critical tongue remained sharp. She was known to call out writers she felt were ignorant, dishonest, or who cluttered the intellectual marketplace. Still, she was respected in her field. Lillian Hellman was born in New Orleans on June 20, 1907. From a young age, she considered herself a loner and sought comfort in books. She loved reading so much that she once pawned a family ring to buy books. In the 1920s, she turned her love of literature into a career. Lillian worked at a publishing house before meeting writer Dashiell Hammett. The two would engage in a 31-year love affair. Dashiell was highly critical of Lillian's writing. After her first play failed, she started running each draft by her lover. The coaching helped. Lillian's second play, The Children's Hour, was a hit and was later adapted into a movie starring Audrey Hepburn and Shirley MacLaine. Lillian soon became one of the country's highest-paid writers. Lillian's next big hit was the 1939 play The Little Foxes. The play drew inspiration from Lillian's family money squabbles and had a successful run on stage and screen. But the newfound popularity was a little too much for Lillian, and she fled her New York apartment for an estate in Westchester. The estate became home to many parties, and is where she wrote numerous plays and books. Not all of her work was well received. Lillian's writing was criticized as too melodramatic, and details presented as fact were often over-exaggerated. Lillian's politics were also called into question. In 1952, she testified in front of the House Un-American Activities Committee for her involvement in the Communist Party. The ordeal caused great stress for Lillian. She was blacklisted in Hollywood and had to sell her estate. Lillian also gained a reputation for being tough and a little difficult to work with. But in the 1970s, her career hit an upswing. She published memoirs and taught writing classes. A story she'd written was adapted into an Academy Award-winning movie starring Jane Fonda. Lillian was back on top. That was until Mary McCarthy's appearance on the Dick Cavett Show in 1979. Before the interview, Mary informed show producers she wanted to highlight an unrecognized author. Dick Cavett took the note and attempted to cue Mary by asking about overrated authors. Her answer was not what the host was expecting. Mary instead launched into a tirade against Lillian Hellman, calling her a dishonest writer and saying, "Every word she writes is a lie, including and the." A few audience members laughed at the scathing comments. One person who was not laughing was Lillian Hellman, who was watching the program at home. Lillian was furious. She sued Mary, Dick Cavett, and PBS for slander. Though many of her friends advised her to drop the $2.25 million suit, Lillian remained steadfast. She knew Mary did not have the money to fight back. Writers began taking sides. Some donated legal fees to Mary in the name of free speech. Novelist Norman Mailer even penned a piece for the New York Times, begging the women to drop the suit for the good of literature. But neither woman was willing to fold. Lillian gained an early victory. In May of 1984, a judge denied Mary McCarthy's motion to dismiss the case, on the grounds that Lillian Hellman was a public figure. The case was set to go to trial, but it never did. A few weeks later, on June 30th, 1984, Lillian died from a heart attack near her home on Martha's Vineyard. The feud lingered even after her death, with Mary later saying, "I didn't want her to die. I wanted her to lose in court. I wanted her around for that." The executors of Lillian's estate eventually dropped the suit. Mary lived another 5 years before she passed away on October 25th, 1989, at the age of 77. Her shared legacy with Lillian remains strong, even today. Their fight sparked debates about free speech, writers' responsibility, and the literary community's power dynamics. Decades later, the feud was revived on stage in writer Nora Ephron's 2002 play Imaginary Friends, and later in the 2014 play Hellman vs. McCarthy. All month, we're talking about Adversaries. For more information, find us on Facebook and Instagram at Womanica Podcast. Special thanks to Liz Kaplan, my favorite sister and co-creator. Talk to you tomorrow. Everybody vibes with the all-new Camry. A standard 225-horsepower engine and an available sport-tuned suspension provide the power and agility to take you anywhere, and to do it in style. With available features like the two-tone midnight black metallic roof, color-matched sport grille, panoramic glass roof, and cockpit red leather-trimmed interior, the Camry has never looked better. And because every all-new Camry is a hybrid, it delivers up to an EPA-estimated 51 miles per gallon combined. Whatever your vibe, it's a Camry vibe. Learn more at toyota.com/Camry.